Hi, it's Susan from Worldpeacefull, and the topic I'm going to talk about today is gender, or being a woman, given that's the only experience I've had in this lifetime. I've come across someone recently who has awakened me to the perspective that there are people out there, particularly certain men, who don't like women. I will question that presumption. I also have a few thoughts around this idea of inequality of outcome and exactly what equality means. And I know that this perspective has come from a religious, if you like, angle, where it's been stated that between men and women, they're biologically different, and that's fixed. In some primitive indigenous people, there have been actual biological differences with the current human on the planet today, and this is biology that's actually been influenced by lifestyle and climate and diet. So I'll just state, I suppose, from the perspective of this other, that they're seeing a physical format of the female as, let's say, fixed in modern memory. That's a fair call, as is man. There's attitudes that sort of subsume this idea of inferiority, weakness, incapacity on the basis of one's gender. If I was to do this in a balanced narrative, obviously I would also look at how males have been perceived as unequal by various females. The argument between the genders has had a fairly similar narrative across the planet, where the men tend to pursue the more mechanical, engineering, science-based, logic type work configurations, if you like, whereas the female has tended to be the nurturer, the person who sews the clothes, the person who washes the clothes, does the dishes, who chats with the neighbour, who likes pretty things, who is seen as more of a service type orientation. When you look at the socialisation, or what some have called social constructivism of gender, I would say most definitely it has been constructed without question. Now, I say that because of information that I found out about children that were raised by wolves. And these children ran around on all fours. They didn't get hypothermia. They were in snow country. They grunted. They didn't speak. They sensed. They were more identified with the wolves than they were with the humans. That's not so much a social constructivism. That's more they have adapted to their environment and identified with it. Therefore, gender is very much formulated on the basis of the human society, which is the social construct which was talked about, and identity is formulated. Of course, we've got media, families. We're in a patriarchal system which is predominant control by males. The infrastructure and architecture, the engineering has all come from a male conceptual framework. Women were too busy raising children, which was a full-time job. They were not able to express the talents that lay dormant within every female. So I'll pause it there because what I want to do is put on some makeup. Because this person that I was reading about said that, put some lipstick on, said that when women wear red lipstick, see, what we like to do is make your lips look. When women put lipstick on, they're doing it because they want to be sexy. Well, I hate to blow the myth up, but that's not why I wear lipstick. I wear lipstick because my lips have gotten used to it. I've been wearing lipstick and lip gloss since I was about 11, right? So it's socialised. I'm socialised. Women wear lipstick. We all try to fit in, right? So as children, you see other women, they're wearing lipstick. You watch your mother tease her hair, and you go, oh, and she's clip-clopping around in her high heels, and you are taught that this is what women wear, this is what women do. You hear what they talk about, and you learn and identify with them because they're females like you. We learn our gender, believe me, we do. So I wear lipstick because I like colour. I'm an artist. I'm going to put some foundation. Let me take that off. Why do I wear foundation? Because my skin's quite pink. I'm a whitey. So I laugh because you look at Asian or, people from African sort of, backgrounds, they want to maybe look fairer, which I say don't. You look gorgeous as you are, dark skin. So consequently, women from Caucasian backgrounds want to make their skin look darker. In my case, it's really to cover blemishes. I'm 53 now, so I'm getting a lot of blemishes. I'm not perfect, but it might come across that my skin is perfect. And that's the beauty of foundation. So am I doing it as a sexual thing? No, I'm not. I'm doing it. I'll explain to you why I'm doing it. Firstly, I was taught very young to put it on. And the reason is because society sent messages to me that I was not good enough unless I looked pretty. This was a very strong message from very young. Even at school, the boys were rude and derogatory to girls that were either overweight, unattractive. You learnt very quickly that if you don't look pretty, you're not safe. Now, I want to make this really clear to some of the men who think that it's all about sexuality and that they're trying to pull a guy. There may be other ways to look at that. Sorry, sense of humour kicking in. I know that the British say that, but it's to attract. They're thinking you're wanting to attract a guy. And yes, women do that too. We're all sexual beings. That happens. And we want to look our best. But it's not always a given that because a woman looks beautiful or wears tight-fitting clothes that she is seeking sex. In my case, no. I might wear, let's say, leggings, and someone could look at me and go, oh, look, she's making herself look sexy. That's your projection. I wear the leggings because they're comfortable, and I do a lot of sitting at computers, so I find them better. I like long tops because the top of my legs are a bit fat, and I'm covering them. It's not because I'm trying to look sexy. I wear the boots because I like them, So I'm just sort of letting you sit with me as I do my makeup and as I talk about this. We're taught to be girls. Another thing we're taught when we're young is close your legs. It's a really horrible thought from a female's point of view when I was told that. Oh, close your legs, like as if you're inviting trouble. And I wasn't doing it for that reason. I just was being human. I didn't know. I found myself in competitive discussions with males at times where, and many times actually I have to say that I had some really good discussions with a lot of men. I was quite young. I was about 15. I used to go out night clubbing, and I did that because I liked dancing. It wasn't because I was after a guy. Although, obviously looking, but not really See how we do our makeup? I was taught that. It's to create a bit of a depth in the eye. That's why we do it. So the technique is kind of like you kind of use a bit of dark there. So you get used to seeing yourself this way, you see. It just becomes your normal. And people can say, oh, look, she wears makeup. That's why she's wearing it. We're covering up. We're trying to look prettier. And the reason we're trying to look prettier is because we want to be safe. I realised today when I was reflecting on this, it's actually to stop negative comments. You know, you don't want to be criticised. Women are very sensitive, and their looks seem to have more importance than a man's looks. If a woman's pretty, everyone's nice to you, and it's amazing how you're treated. I have been treated well by most people. Most people will talk to me. This is pencil. So we typically put them under the eyes. The Kashmiris, they have a kind of it's like a charcoal, but they kind of close their eye and they pull it across. It's very beautiful. I've done that. So typically we do that, and it's to make the eye look bigger. And as you can see, I've got blue eyes, so it makes my eyes look more blue. But I've been doing this since I was 12. I did have 10 years off when I was with my partner. I didn't obviously feel the need. And I noticed that. I was getting really slack. It's like, who cares? But we kind of use it for security too, because we want to feel better about ourselves. This is mascara. So why do we do this? We've just been taught, make yourself look pretty. But you know what? It's to make ourselves look pretty for the man, so that he gets an aesthetic pleasure out of looking at us. And then we kind of feel more confident because we know we're not going to get a negative comment. We're trying to make sure we're safe, that we're not treated like we're less value. And unfortunately with women, we've been very much judged on the basis of how we look. Now that's not really, it's a bit hard to do it like through a computer like this. Normally I do it with a mirror. I'm going to try and get that bit. It's tricky. You just get used to doing it like this. I don't put mascara on much these days. I do occasionally because I'm not going out that much. And I'm not in a workplace anymore, so, for women when they're at work, they have to wear makeup. Because I heard this guy saying it's all about sexuality, and it was to do with harassment and rape issues, and as if it's the woman's fault that she gets raped. I've heard that one before, and there are cases that I've been reading about where, even in rape cases, the barristers have been so horrendous. There was one woman who I remember particularly who was raped as a virgin, I might add. They got her drunk. She'd never drunk before, and she was raped by 4 guys. And then she was put on the stand for 4 days with 4 barristers representing each guy, making her feel like she was, a prostitute. I have an issue with the legal fraternity in its own attempt to win cases by using verbal abuse. I think that has to be banned in courts. I do not think that's professionalism. I think it's bullying. This woman said it was far worse than the rape, what she went through. I've been a witness in a rape case. The woman had a heart attack some years later, but I was a witness of her being raped. And, the guy's mother rang her and abused her. This woman had a hell of a hard life. She had children. They got fostered out. Her name was Lynette. I felt really strong connection with Lynette. And I wrote her letters. I was about 18 at the time. And we went to court in a place called Taree, which is New South Wales. And he got off because she died. They put her through hell. I was the one that insisted that we go to the police at the time. And I hope that was a good decision for her sake. But I'm sure she suffered a lot, through going through this, because the courts are not very sensitive. So anyway, as a female, brush your hair. I'm doing the whole routine. I'm doing it because this is what we do as women, and why, we like to look nice. But as I said, the predominant reason is because I think for most women they have low self-esteem, because we're taught that we're not worth as much as men. That's the problem. And of course, in certain countries, the baby girls are killed because they're not seen as economically viable. I've had that word said to me in respect of my own work. I'm not impressed. It's become, this is the male paradigm of economics. So I put on some earrings because women wear earrings. Why do we do it? Because it looks nice. We're artists. We're actually artists, is what we are. We're much more, we're more in the right brain, not the logical. We're the feeling, artists are feelers. And I want to talk a bit about feeling. This is not a weakness. This is a great strength. There is no mistake that the feminine is the birther of children. She takes on the great pain and discomfort of pregnancy. I just got an image of the sperm and the egg, which is a bit like the comet hitting a planet, which was the bringing of life. That's what comets actually do. When they hit planets, they actually bring, peptides? Peptides. Amino acids are on the comets, and amino acids are the building blocks of life. So when the comet hits a planet, it seeds life. Same universe happens within the womb of a woman when the sperm connects with the egg. And of course, if you think about it, millions of sperms, millions of varieties of possible children. What are the chances of that sperm reaching that egg to manifest a baby? And then we've got the chromosomes, the XXXY, male, female, on the basis of how that sorts. I believe that all babies, fetuses, are actually female, and then they manifest into male. It's XXXY. X is the genome, the code. Now, within that DNA, within that fetus, is generations of human beings, male and female, that formulate the fetus. It may express as a female or express as a male when it's born, but it is a mixture of the masculine and feminine. It's got the genetic historical traits since the origin of the human species. So whenever you look at a human being, don't just look at them like, that's a female, oh, she's hot. Oh, he's a nice bloke. You're looking at a unique human being that's never been here. In this physical look, this is unique. However, they embody generations of DNA coding that has expressed as males and females. Within every human being is the masculine and the feminine. So it's not quite a simplistic notion of stating this female is biologically inferior, this male is strong, who's biologically superior. That is untrue. They are complements that come together. I also want to express that idea of the masculine and feminine. It does not mean female, male. Masculine is an energy that expresses through both men and women. So some men might get a shock to find that their female partner is actually not that feminine. She may well be wearing the pants, putting on the boots. She may be the one who wants to provide for the family. And it's not because she's trying to be a man, it's because she's got a masculine expression which orientates her to be a provider. So it shows you the provider is not a male, it's the masculine. I've met women who are not feminine. I had a friend who was like a racing car driver. We drove up the coast, and this girl's hanging in the corners, going really fast, put down, and she's even a bit macho, in the way she talks. She's very matter of fact, Oh, look, I think we'll stop up here, and she might as well say have a beer. Anyway, I remember we were quite young. I was about 21, I think, and we were hooning to the coast. And some bloke followed us, and because her car looks like a bloke's car, he was tailgating us the whole way. He was very impressed, and she was hanging into corners and. Anyway, we got to, I think it was Bateman's Bay, and this guy pulls up, and he was shocked to see she was female. He thought for sure it's a guy. He was going to say, God, and he said, I was so impressed, mate. She's good at engineering. She was good at mechanics. She was more logical. So the logic is in the masculine, not the male. And that's why for the poor males who are feminine, this is the males that are very gentle, who are artistic, who are very communicative like a female, very chatty. They're not into the footy. They're just expressing the feminine within a male. And that's very, very beautiful. From a female's point of view, I actually really love the feminine masculine, personally, because I love gentle men. I don't get excited by men with, who are aggressive and violent. I don't enjoy violence. I don't like negative communication. It doesn't excite me. What excites me is, philosophical insight. What excites me is small acts of kindness. When I see a man do a beautiful thing, my ex-husband, I remember, I took a photo of him when we were in Paris, and he was giving money to a gypsy lady, and I was very inspired by him doing that. Even I had another partner who's from, a country within the Middle East, and he was an artist. He was very much both a masculine and feminine. He had a mixture of both because he was quite an amazing man. He'd never seen a television, right? I can fix it, he'd say. And he'd go in the back of the television, and he did. He fixed it. He had very good ability to conceptualize and fix things. But artistically, he was brilliant. Poetically, he was brilliant. He painted images within images that conveyed the whole story of what the subject matter was about. He actually did a lot of paintings of women, but it was to do with feminism. He was a feminist, actually. He's probably the only one in his country, and I was lucky enough to find him. He was very gentle, and the things I loved about him was he was very polite and kind to people, always. He had women ringing him because he was a great listener. He was a quiet guy. He was beautiful. Both the wonderful men I had the privilege of sharing time with were both quiet men, and I was the talkative one, and there are complements and opposites for sure. But there's the masculine feminine. So this is the woman who's a provider, who's no nonsense, who's probably quieter, gets on with it. Then there's the feminine who are into the earrings and looking, we're more artistic. I'm a feminine, so I cry very easily. I am very in tune with my emotions, and I'm not afraid to share my emotions because I see that as my humanity, and I'm not in denial of it. As I've said in some of my blogs, we women are a lot freer in this regard. We have definitely had impediments in respect of how women are seen and what they're perceived as capable of, but that is shifting, and I am aware of that. So that is good news. There's still a lot of countries where the women are still caught up in traditional sort of ways that they are not unable to break out of. The young ones are starting to break out, and I know this is hard for the older ones who see their traditions breaking down, and it fills them with great sadness and uncertainty. I understand that. There were reasons why things have happened this way. In this video, I'm just simply having a discussion about what it is to be female. The next video, I'm actually going to tell you where it all started. The information I'm going to be giving, let's just say, is of a higher source, and I will do that in my own service to humanity. What I would like to see is the genders heal. I do not want to see one person disadvantaged on the basis of any characteristic, and gender being one. We are magnificent beings, each and every one of us, no matter orientation. And I include transgender in this as well, with love and respect. And I might just quickly allude to the transgender. They are operating out of the dyad of masculine and feminine, just as the heterosexuals are. Homosexuals are also masculine and feminine pairs. Now, people don't get this yet. They might be in a female, let's say we've got two females. One is a masculine female and the other is a feminine female, definitely. I've very seldom seen two masculine females together. Highly unlikely. Opposites attract. In this case, it's in a female form that they're attracting. Or it's in a masculine form, a male form, I should say. Within the male couplings, it's the same thing. There's the feminine male, and I've had good friends who are gay, and it was very evident who was the feminine, and it was very evident who was the masculine. So what I'm saying is that the natural order is the masculine and feminine come together. The purpose of world peace is for these two to unite. Now, they are embodied in two different bodies, but they're also housed within the body as well. And there are moments when one dominates and one doesn't. So there might be a moment where the masculine has to come out in order to deal with something, get it done. It's very forceful, pushing forward energy. It's not a violent energy. It's a pushing forward energy. Is the masculine. The logic, the linear, is all expressing through the left brain orientation. Also in males, they're wired that way. Females have the wiring on both sides. This is why we have very good verbal facility, probably why even the empathy is highly developed. I'd say that because the female is has been predominantly the carer of children, they've had to develop other aspects of the brain in order to sense, to feel, to intuit, to communicate, to teach, because we're teachers as well. We're born teachers, many of us. We're guiding the child to then, so the whole of humanity has come through women. The women, the mothers, the grandmothers, the great-grandmothers, the great-great-great-grandmothers have brought in human form onto this planet. And within that is a spirit. All around that is a spirit. And the spirit is what lives on. So once we pass over, we may not be in a female form next lifetime. It could be something else. And that's when the story gets very interesting and very limited viewpoints of equality, inferiority, illogical or spontaneity, all these very snapshot statements categorizing a whole gender become irrelevant when you recognize that you're here on a journey, each and every one of us is, to experience life through that lens. We're experiencing life through the lens. In my case, I'm here as a female looking out at the world, and through that experience, it impacts on what I see and who I become as a result of how this world has looked upon me and responded to my presence here. And the same applies for every single person. If you were disabled, you'll have another life experience. If you were deformed in some way, maybe in great poverty, always hungry, eating grass. I know in Afghanistan the women are eating grass. Some of the men and children are eating grass because there's no food. That's a very powerful experience. And in a world where many people be watching this have full stomachs, the experience is very different. You can't imagine what it's like to be that insecure, to be that close to death. So this video is obviously focusing on one aspect of the human condition, which is gender, because I believe that there's a lot of misunderstanding about this subject matter. You can't know it unless you live the experience as it, as a woman or as a man. For those men who hate women, I would ask you to question your thinking. What is it you're resentful of? What is it you feel you've been denied? How do you feel you're seen in respect of that? How do you change that? How do you move from being a victim of it to a victor and attract into your life the very things you want? That's called the law of attraction. I advise you very strongly to look it up on the internet. What you think about, you bring about. If you think all women are this, then you're going to attract that. If you want to attract a person who's compatible with you, who will mirror the better parts of you to you, then you have to think about it and bring about it. No one's a victim in this life at all. The discriminations that we're seeing across the planet have come from traditions, come from religions that have perceived feminine, the female, as somehow subordinate. She's not. She never has been. She's always been equal. When I say equal, I mean equal opportunity. We're not the same, never can be. But we are here to express who we really are. And when fairness becomes the primal teaching in humanity, we will share everything accordingly. We will stop discriminating and give everybody a fair go, because we're all here to live to our fullest potential, and that has to be the goal. This is not a competition. It does not have to be in the image of man. It can be a cooperation. Certainly from my angle as a female, I like cooperation. I'm not interested in competition at all. Not into sports, although I like sport myself. I like exercise. I'm interested in the full potential of people being realised, and that requires support. It requires parenting that has an unlimited thought form about its daughter or son, where children are encouraged. They're not just relegated, well, you're off to have babies, that's your purpose in life. Well, no, it's not. I didn't have any babies, and it wasn't my purpose. I was meant to do the work I've done, I was meant to train as an economist. I was meant to work as a market analyst. I was obviously, meant to explore peace in the real sense, conflict resolution, politics. I was meant to explore everything because I'm a philosopher. I'm interested in who we really are, who I am, beyond my gender. So having said all that, that's introduction, believe it or not, 30 minutes. I'm communicative. That is the feminine. And whether people think it's too much talk or not, bad luck. That is feminine. You're seeing the diversity. This is it. Okay, I'm going to read you an article I wrote back on the 16th of April 2011, and it's called Gender Disharmony Does Not Lead to World Peace. So I just want to state very quickly, because of this academic I've recently been watching, let's have a copy, who has, let's just say, a contrasting perspective. I don't actually dislike contrasting perspectives. I don't mind. He inspired me to do this video, so he has served me in this regard. I found his attitudes very interesting, and I could see it was a fear. There's a conservative fear of a loss of tradition, where he felt meaning, where he felt power. He felt things were changing, that there wasn't that certainty that perhaps he grew up with. He's looking for that security, that going back to those traditions, but it's not possible. The world is changing. The younger generation, forget about it. It's never gonna return to what it was. It would be my point to him. He's very clever in his discourse, I noted. He's got a psychologist's background. I'm just tuning in. This is another feminine aspect. Men can do it too if they practice. Yeah, I saw pain in him. Deep pain and anger. There was a lot of anger, frustration that he has felt because he expects the world to be a certain way and the world doesn't show up that way, and that's his anger. He's fighting against the change that's already happening, and he's regarded those changes as some form of evil, which it's not. It's how consciousness evolves. We are all consciousness in truth. His anger is if something is dismantling, something that he felt was very, very vital. Now, that's just my perspective. That doesn't mean I'm right. I don't believe in right and wrong. I believe in just expressing from a perspective. All perspectives are different. So I honour this divergent perspective from my own. The issue of constructivism of the female is incorrect, although it is true to say that we are influenced socially. It just depends on what your objective is. For me, I'm probably a little bit different from most females in the sense that I've tended to identify with things that freed me. I was a hippie when I was young. I did very many different things from other females. I rode skateboards. I was the first person to skate on a halfpipe in Southern Hemisphere. This was Perspex. So I never really saw myself as female. I became a clown in later years, and that was, again, a non-gendered expression because I was seeking to be the presence of love, which is not female either. It's actually human. Comes through human beings when they let go of judgment. So to be able to look at a woman without a story and say she should be a this or a that, or her biology is somehow inferior, is a very limited perspective. That's not true. Her biology is perfectly in balance for what her role is and her job is on the planet. And it's a potential, I don't like to use the word roles and jobs, actually. I'm not comfortable with that because I know it's not true. The fact that women birth children means that many of them will want to have a child, and of course that is going to take them down a trajectory that is often accorded as female. I didn't have children, so I haven't gone down that trajectory. I'm fortunate in that I haven't really been around that many mothers, other than a few friends, so I haven't felt I've missed out on anything. That's a very good thing. So as a consequence, my focus has been on who I really am, and because I'm not looking into the mirror that much, I'm forgetting that I'm a female, which is really great. That then opens up the possibility of being who I am. I just recognise biologically, yes, that's true, and it is what it is, but it's not who I am. It's just the vehicle I move around in. I'm starting to understand that from higher perspectives, we are here to love one another no matter whatever gender we are. So I just thought I'd say that as a comment. So this article, Gender Disharmony Does Not Lead to World Peace. The uniting of the genders is extremely important if we are to survive on the planet. I'm publishing a letter my friend wrote to the editor of a newspaper. She's not a feminist, nor lesbian, nor man-hater. And I've got in brackets, no offence to those in the categories. I respect all people, which I do. You can critique the opposite gender without an agenda, or bitterness is the point. She calls herself an equal opportunist. I like that. She is looking at me seriously right now, saying she does. She's saying both sexes could have the same opportunities This is her central message. We recorded this in Brisbane. I remember this as back in 2011. It's a fair while ago. I want to publish it because I heard this story many times from women. For men reading this or listening to this, I want you to attempt not to project onto it. That means don't look at it and go, judgment, she's a this, she's a that, that's right, that's wrong. Just have an open mind. Your experience may be different, or you may see yourself in it. The disharmony between men and women comes from stereotyped beliefs of the roles of women and men. You may note the order. I just did because I'm breaking out of all convention. However, I feel if we are to find true peace in the world, men have to bravely face these issues, if true, and women need to speak up more and not play out roles that render them working 24/7 or martyrs. I also know from my own research for a local council in Melbourne during the Year of Women in Local Government that women feel they have to do all the work, not only in the workplace but in the home. The majority of the staff were female and many were in service-related roles or in community services, health, etc. Only one or two were in engineering. One woman I interviewed said in her country it was acceptable for women to be engineers, where she noticed here women didn't believe they could work in these roles, and that's important to note. If we don't believe it, we don't create it. She was from Russia, this lady. Hence, not being accepted. Women felt that they couldn't even begin to think about leadership roles or professional roles as they had children, and in the workplace they would be expected to work long hours. So their monetary and career aspirations are ruled out the moment they have kids. This is not the case typically for men. Solutions to this raised in the research include job share, childcare centres at workplaces, working from home to enable women to be equal participants in working life. In the male group I interviewed, there were some that acknowledged they had it good. I really noted that. They knew the woman's going to do everything for them. One guy had a very switched on mindset and stated he saw that men and women, note I just changed it back around the other way, are not the same and that differences need to be understood. He spoke of equal opportunity, not sameness. Even issues of women having periods came up. And of course, in some cultures, people see it as dirty, and it's just that's so wrong. It's natural. It's crazy to think that. Women were uncomfortable speaking about this, but I did not dismiss it. Women do get premenstrual. They felt unwell at work and could be snappy. This can be dismissed by some men, but it is a real issue for women. They have to manage it. One of the most fundamental issues is not having equal pay. I think of this psychologist now. But the same work. When I started out as an economist in the 1990s, women were paid 80% of the male wage. When I conducted this research, to my surprise, the same figure was bandied around. So it's a real issue, and it's still the same today, 2018. Can you believe that? This psychologist stated it was about being assertive to get equal pay. I worked in 400 companies. Had I asserted for more money, particularly in temp agency, they would have shown me the door. No, we were seen as less. We were seen as not as getting distracted by my phone. We were seen as not worth the same. And this has come from tradition. So this business of equal pay, when we had the Arbitration Commission in Australia, this was where they set the national wage case. This was where we had industries that actually were categorised. I used to be a research analyst, so I used to work out different classifications per industry. Just turning off my phone as I'm talking to you if you're wondering what I'm doing. So these classifications have changed now with enterprise bargaining, which means there may be the presence or non-presence of unions in negotiating pay outcomes. if women have been traditionally in these lower paid jobs, which they have, they're seen automatically as not worth as much. They don't know how to bargain and negotiate. They don't necessarily feel they have a position of power, which they don't. With the national wage case, we had wages fixed, so there was at least an agreement on what people should be paid. They're still trying to, obviously, ensure minimum wages, but the minimum wages today are like $17. I was paid back in the 80s, early 80s, $20 an hour. So it's actually gone, real wages have gone down, nominal wages have gone down. Pay for women is still pathetic in respect of parity. And it's absolutely an outrage in this time and place that business community have not brought that up. We do need to have wages set and industry standards, but unfortunately, because of the power shifting between business and unions, we've seen what was standard diminish, so that they call it flexible wages so that they can negotiate down wages. This is not an abundance mentality. This is a poverty mentality that business believe. They see labour as a cost of production. So that's just a quick economics lesson on why that is. Essentially, they just want minimal cost. So the fact that you're a female and you're not good at negotiating, yes, there is truth that you won't get the amount, but you wouldn't even if you pushed it. They'd see you as a pushy female. And that's some of the barriers that women have, is because they're supposed to be submissive. And these are all outdated, outmoded beliefs. So I go on to say in this blog, I just went for a job recently and was interviewed by women who inquired if I had children. I knew this was a disadvantage as I don't have them. I am fine. I also have spoken with a female doctor who has women telling her of their lives and wondering why they feel exhausted. The doctor explained anyone would be exhausted with the load they carry. Women often expect themselves to do more, never feeling good enough in their roles. That's very common. This is not to say that there are not women who are the opposite. There are. I'm speaking in terms of generalizations. I also know there are men out there who probably do more than their fair share as well. I'm speaking of general stereotypes across society which are creating disharmony between men and women, and this impacts on families, children, and the future. My friend wrote this story from personal experience and observation. I found it interesting at the end she says, "Come on guys, help out." I've heard this many times. It is about men helping women. Interesting word, helping. Yeah, I've just written that next. Often I have questioned why it is help, as if it is her role and not a shared parenting experience. It is a story, as I said before, I've heard many times, and I sense it is a real issue in society, not just here in Australia, but in other countries. I think it is healthy for men to engage in the discussion, putting their side forth. Maybe the issue of father role models is important. I remember staying with a lovely couple in their 60s. The father got up and did the dishes. This made a real impact on me because I was just thinking about him today. He said, "Whoever cooks doesn't wash up." That sounds fair to me. He and his son-in-law did the dishes together whilst the women sat at the table. Yes. You should have seen how happy I was, because I'm all for role reversals. I'm up from mixing it up. I'm not interested in playing the women role. I'll do it if I have to, but I don't want to. I'm not interested. So when I saw that man and his son-in-law doing the dishes, I was so proud of him for hopefully not helping his wife, but actually seeing it as fairness. You know, let's share the work. I think that's far more productive. Even one of my close male friends asked his wife to make me a coffee. Now, he was the old guy. Some of you have seen my video where I talk about my friend who's a clown buddy. He's 70. He's 77 now. He was the one that came from that traditional, the wife does everything. It's not his fault. It was just his generation. I remember being stunned sitting at the table thinking, oh, my God, this poor woman, she's running around doing all the cooking, doing all the dishes, and then he goes, "Can you make me a coffee?" That was just foreign to me because it's like, get up and make your own. And for those in other countries, I'll be going, oh, you're not an obedient, I wasn't a wife, so you can't say that to me. But no, when I was married, my husband and I shared everything. We shared everything. Like, he would do the washing one week, I would do it the next. He would do the cleaning one weekend, I would do it the next weekend. The only thing we didn't share was money. And there was no real reason in that, just that we both worked, and why share it? You don't need to. We both had enough. But he was wonderful, and he had no projection of me being a female and behaving a certain way. He was a really, really beautiful man, very humble and very peaceful. He was lovely, lovely person to live with. I was very blessed. So we shared. That was our contribution to each other. I go on to say here that in this case of the father that was with the son-in-law, his wife was exhausted at the time, having cooked Christmas dinner for his family. Oh no, this is my clown buddy. And he'd just chatted with the boys whilst the girls cleaned up and did the dishes. I really noted it. The women were helping because they saw her tiredness. The men didn't. It was really clear. So these were two contrasting situations of a man who was very conscious of sharing, and in this case, a man who had no idea and who just saw that's her role, this is my role, I'm happy, he's being served. But for me, looking upon all of that, it was like really strange. It was like, I can't even believe he can't even notice. So the reason the women go into the kitchen and help each other is because they empathise with the other. They don't want to do the dishes. They're doing it because they can see that woman's going to get stuck with everything. It's called kindness. But the others would be looking at that and going, oh, see, the women are all doing the dishes? No, we're just caring about each other. My wish is that these issues are addressed, and I believe it benefits both men and women. If something can be worked out to better share workloads from a space of equality, respect, and love. I want to repeat that. Equality is about fairness. That's what it's about. One can skew that statement into equal opportunity, saying it's not possible to equalise all outcomes. That's not what equal opportunity means. It means that everyone's equally given an opportunity, not suppressed because you're a female and you can't do that, and we're not even going to listen to your case. That's unequal. That's discrimination. Equal opportunity is fairness. Give this person an opportunity to see what they're capable of because we honour that person. I say person because I don't care about gender myself. I think it's an irrelevancy, but unfortunately there are people who are really believing that they want a world order in a certain image of themselves, and it's not going to happen that way. True love shares, cares, reveals, and heals. It is not for one to love the other, because that's what she does. True love shares, cares, reveals, and heals. Indifference sits by, doesn't notice, doesn't care, only focuses on the self. When one, and it doesn't matter which gender we're talking about here, when one is selfish and only considering their needs, only talking about themselves, not looking at the other and thinking, how can I serve you? How can I bring joy to you? Because let me tell you, when you bring joy to another, it comes back to you. What you give to another returns to the self every time. It is not about taking. It's not about using. It's not about cohabiting. It's about sharing one's life with another. And in the optimal relationship, it will be one that grows. on the basis of sharing and living together in a way that expands both. We are here to serve one another. Some of the spiritual teachers have talked about it as washing the feet of the other. I see that. That's called humility. That's honoring another. It's not worshipping another when you're washing their feet. It's the love is so great within you that you would get enormous joy from washing their feet. That's what that means. We're here to serve, all of us, not just women. So this is my beautiful friend, her letter to the editor. It seems as a society that we still cannot or will not value the work of mothers. From my own experience and that which I have observed, it is obvious that to this day women are expected to run a household, cook, clean, do the washing, shopping, and look after the children. Some mothers are also expected to work outside the home as well, just to make ends meet. A mother's job is 24 hours a day, unlike the average 8 hours of her male counterpart, although many are working more hours now. Mothers have day shifts and night shifts in a continuous stream. So why, oh why, is it that when the male gets home, he often assumes the position of couch potato, armed with TV remote in hand, and woe betide anyone who attempts to get him up or to remove the remote from his grip. He watches from his throne as his partner struggles with cooking dinner single-handedly whilst answering the phone, picking up the children, helping the kids with their homework. You get the picture. She goes from the lounge to the dining room, back to the lounge, then to the bedroom, continually picking up things off the floor, sorting out the washing and emptying the dryer for the school uniforms for the next day. He's been working all day, and he has a right to relax when he comes home, right? It is really too much to ask. Yes, it is. She's been working all day too and needs him to do his part when he gets home. Why can't he cook dinner, help the kids with their homework, and perhaps bath them while mum cooks dinner? Or maybe when he gets home, mum can put her feet up and relax. After all, she's been working all day and will continue until the time she goes to bed. He gets up from the couch only when dinner is actually on the table and complains if there is no cutlery there. Where's my cutlery? Where's my knife and fork? He even asks her to get it for him. Oh my God. Oh yes, and the salt and pepper and his favourite sauce. And oh yes, and a nice cold beer, please, love. Meanwhile, the TV is blaring because sport is on and he just doesn't want to miss it. When dinner is over, he leaves his plate on the table and takes his usual position back in his armchair while she clears the table, then washes and dries the dishes and puts them away. The kids are starting to go mad and annoy Dad, so he drags himself up for a quick tug of war with them and then back to his chair. In the meantime, calling out, "Can you get me another beer, honey?" The phone rings. The baby needs changing. The kids need bathing. The lounge floor is a mess. But he stays glued to the TV, strangely oblivious to everything around him. This is madness. When she asked him to do something, he tells her she is nagging. Oh, again, what a funny notion. Requesting normal assistance has become nagging. Laziness and lack of consideration are not acceptable. Men are not stupid or blind. They can see what's going on in front of them, but choose to behave in a way that leaves the partner's mothers to do everything, unless they are nagged into assistance. So when does teamwork as a couple come into play? Is it only a fantasy, a dream? Surely couples want to have a happy and harmonious environment at home. This takes effort on both sides. We are not men's mothers. If they want mothering, they need to go home for that. We are the mothers of our children. Come on, guys, help out. To begin with, just start by looking after yourselves. This alone will take a load off your partner. And who knows, she may even have enough energy left for loving late at night. So that's that article. I've actually got behind that conflict resolution so that communication can get improved. I'll just quickly run over it. Step 1, cool off. Step 2, tell them what's bothering you. We use I messages or I statements. You know, when you do this, I feel that, and what I would like is this. That's an I statement. Each person restates what they've heard. So, darling, you're asking me to come and help. To come and see, I'm evading the word help. You need me to bath the children. Is that what you're asking? And she will say yes. When do you want me to do that? Could you do that now? Because it's 7 o'clock and this is the time they have to be bathed. So he goes ahead and does it. It's to improve the communication. Take responsibility is step 4. Step 5 is brainstorm solutions and come up with ones that satisfy both people. So problem solving in the family. Step 6 is to affirm, forgive, or thank. Thank you very much for your thoughtfulness. Both sides. Thank you for dinner. How was your day? You know, thanks for putting the children to bed. I'm really grateful that you let me watch sport, and then I'll do that for you tomorrow night. You know, maybe we can negotiate ways that I can help you too. This is peacemaking in the home. It's very, very important. Nobody much knows this at this point, but the real peace in the world starts with the family. So that was my friend's story to the editor. She's like in her 60s. She's 60 now. So this is obviously her experience as a mother. But these are primordial conflicts between men and women, where women don't feel that men help, they don't feel they listen. Women are great talkers, the men are typically great listeners, but we find that in Western culture. If you go to a third world or a second world country, let's say you go to somewhere, South America or Central America, the sort of the men there are far more communicative. They sing, they talk, you know, there's much more communication. So I tend to see sort of the Caucasian, you know, like Canada, US, Australia, Britain, the men tend to be more shut down emotionally. In more creative parts of the world where they've got very alive traditions, where they're ancient cultures, where music and poetry and things like that are very part of their cultures, like the Middle East. The Middle Eastern men are actually very passionate and very emotional. The Greek men, you see, are very, very passionate. This is very artistic. You know, Italy, places like Italy, very artistic. France is as well. You can see the French have a lot of passion. They talk about these things. I'm just feeling that then. So in this culture, they can tend to get very shut down. So that's been 1 hour and 1 minute. Woohoo! That's me. Chatterbox. I'm loving it. I love communication. That's why I do it. Why do I love it? Because I love ideas. I love exploring who I am, who you are, who we are, because that's my nature. So for those who have been hurt by the opposite gender, I send you love and healing, and I'm going to say something to you that you may find difficult to believe, particularly if you're still harboring negativity, because I did dedicate this video to men who hate women. I hope you don't still hate me after all that. You get the perfect partner every time. Now, why do I say every partner is a perfect partner? What if they beat you? What if they screamed at you? What if they hated you? What if you found yourself with someone who you thought, that's not the person I met? They are your greatest teacher because they've come. And why they're there is to show you the aspects of yourself that are not healed. Let's say they left you and their grievance was you were never home, or you never told them you loved them, or you didn't bring them flowers, or whatever the grievance. You have two ways in which you can deal with that. You can say to yourself, well, next time I'll be more attentive. Or you might say, I was just being who I really am. And she was wanting things of me that I was not able to give her in authenticity. And I accept that this was not what she wanted, and she made a decision, or he made a decision. It could be either or. Because he really, or she really didn't feel that she was happy with who she is with that person in reflection. Ultimately, we're never really leaving anyone. We're really leaving because we're not happy. And the joy we thought the other was going to give us didn't materialize. The true nature of any relationship is not in the taking from that other. It's actually in the giving. That's where real love expresses, is through unconditional love, which means you don't have to show up in the way that I think you should. It is accepting people for who they are, warts and all. They are what they are. You can't change someone. They're not there to make you happy. You are there to make you happy. That's not their job. Most people get relationships because they don't want to be alone. I would say learn to be alone first, then have a relationship. Because when you have that relationship, if they leave, you'll be fine with that. You're not there because you're looking for a security blanket. You're truly there because you're enjoying the marvel of being with such a beautiful person. And you're learning so much from that person. And you wouldn't want them to change, not one bit, because you love them for who they are. And they do not have to turn up in a way that makes you happy. That's selfish. So may the genders blend. May they come to understand that this is not about a sex war or a gender. I laugh sometimes when I see, quite blatant statements. Everyone is your teacher, no matter who they are. Feel grateful that you've met. So with that, may we find world peace in the unification of men and women, and the masculine and the feminine. Thanks. Bye.